Okay.
1:30. Ladies and gentlemen, Alpharel, the pilot.
Pilot's son.
Pilot's Alpharel Pilotson. That's your new name, Alpharel Pilotson.
It's my new name.
So let me see if YouTube is doing its thing.
Okay.
Because the reason I'm going now,
just so you're not delaying the start time for the stream.
Yeah,
I get that.
If someone
looks like you're good.
Yeah.
Hello. Let me check the audio real quick.
Start stream. Okay. Yeah. Let me check. Let's do some.
Audio's good. Sound check.
We got it. All right. Now. So. One person watching, which would be me. And I don't know how StreamYard works other than it seems to be working now.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Parker, he linked my account with his in some way where I have access.
Okay.
And since then, I have been so scared to blow up his channel.
I don't think he would probably mind too much. That is one of the funnier things about this is that I don't know. There's a lot of leeway for those kinds of little mistakes where you're not technology is not the easiest thing in the world to use, especially not for folks who don't have as much experience with it. And the fact that we have as many older folks, not to be rude about that, but y'all are able to handle it pretty well from what I can see.
It's fun to me, to be honest. Now let me try to see if I can put my headset in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna pairing. So go ahead and give me a radio check.
Radio check.
Oh, nice.
Got you, Lima Charlie. Not me.
Oh, that's interesting because I see people wear headphones, and I don't know if it really.
For me, that's because I used to play games over Discord and stuff, and if you have game noise coming out of the speakers, a lot of times you'll get feedback back into the mic, and it's a pain for everybody else in the call, so it's more of a courtesy thing than anything else.
Okay, so what looks better, this or this? This
one
or that
or two
or two.
I like the widescreen camera shots, but
if someone's on
who gave Ron the power?
That's your fault. So let me try something. Let me turn off because let me see. I don't want to nuke the wrong critter. So go ahead and talk yet again.
Radio check.
Oh wait. All right. It's really not that bad.
No.
For me.
No, it's more of an issue when you have other loud volume things coming through the speakers that can potentially go back into the mic. If it's just people talking, it's not too bad usually.
Right.
It's just habit at this point.
Right. I see PBK doing it too. Mm-hmm. So it's Harris, right? Who's
Harris. It's like
Harris.
Roll your R, Harris. Harris.
Oh, okay.
Just
dude,
single
I got this.
Trill.
Yeah. So he's from the Middle East. Cyprus. Oh, okay. Cyprus. Oh, wow.
Which we'll pull up. You can pull up a little Google tab and show people where that's at. If I can do it quickly enough.
So does he have access to the link as well?
He should, yeah.
Did you send it to him? Because I only sent it to you.
Oh shoot! I thought that you sent it to both of us.
No, but I'll do it now.
Whoops! No, I got you. Let's see. Copy link.
Yeah. Wire here.
There we go.
Oh, dude. No,
we're professionals here.
Yeah, you get what you paid for. You're possessed.
It's free, so here we go.
Yeah, you guys are screwed. You're gonna be okay, but you're screwed right now.
All right, share screen. Google Maps.
Oh, dude, I'm playing with the backgrounds now. This is, and I've got wavy bubbles.
So if you want to, I should be
yeah.
showing my tip. There we go. So Cyprus is a little island just south of Turkey, just west of Syria and Israel,
Oh,
just north
wow.
of Egypt.
So that's a beautiful place, right?
Yes, at least from the photos and stuff that I've seen of it. So
Right.
And also one of the really Mount Olympus is located on it.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm gonna send it to him now as well, because I want to make sure he doesn't feel left out at all.
I mean, it's in the group. I put it in the group coordination chat for us, so you should see.
And oh, there he is. Hold on a second. Haris.
Ta-da!
Hey!
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're just doxing you by pointing out the island that you live on.
It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah. Now everyone knows where he lives. He's gonna come visit you.
Mhm.
Everyone's gonna go to Cyprus.
It's fine. It's fine. How are you guys?
We're good.
Dude, pretty good. What time is it there?
Is that a Viking helmet?
Yeah.
Well, you told me about that before.
Henry, let's talk, okay? Shall we?
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Let's see what I can do here. Oh, dang it! It's fine.
Yeah, I'm back.
I want to see the close up of the helmet. How do I do this? I can't blow you up.
Yeah, it's how do you say?
There we go.
Oh, there it is. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but it's half of it. It used to have other things to it at the time. Yeah.
Oh,
So-
nice.
Cool.
Okay, now I feel. Phew. All right, this is the smoothest I've ever run. And I used to do TV production.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Do you know Bob Ross? Everyone
Yeah.
knows Bob.
Yeah.
I worked in his studios, not
Are
with
you
Bob.
kidding me?
No, WIPB.
wow.
Yeah, I've seen his paintings. I've touched. Well, I could touch one of them, but
Oh, wow.
yeah, at Ball State University
Mhm.
is where he did his gig,
Mhm.
and that's where I worked at WIPB for a short time. I had a part-time contract there, and I worked with the kids, which were just a blast. And I did ESPN2, which is, it's the cable version of ESPN. But I've never been into sports. I didn't care, but they're like, oh my gosh, you did ESPN2. I'm like, yeah, so I'm like, and I take honor in the fact that I was in the place where Bob Ross made his Happy Trees.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
That's so cool.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Did you work in like videography, sound? What was your?
I graduated in TV production from Kent State University in '87, and promptly became a pot smoking hippie and did nothing with my degree for several years. Got saved at a pot festival in '99. And then went to a church and immediately started a broadcast there. And we did a broadcast for several years. And then the church burnt down, never picked up the broadcast equipment until now. But this is a lot more fun because I can do this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the smooth tones of Afriel and Haris.
Thank you, Ron. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having us on your show.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, but by the way, a small correction because the general will also make fun of me once again. My name is Harris, like Sam Harris. Harris. Yeah, like Kamala Harris.
Oh, okay. That'll help. So, all right. Nice.
But the way that the Greek pronunciation of it, there's like a little bit of an R trill there. It's just slightly different than like the R that you get from English or American English pronunciations.
Yeah, but it's far closer. Yeah.
how do I post a link so people can get in? Or
I can do it real quick.
Yeah,
Hang on.
cool. Because Neil
Oh.
said, what?
I think that whatever the settings are, it has it so that I can't post links. So
Can
you might
I
have to
post
do it.
links?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Let's see what I can do.
I'm hoping that Mark gave you permissions to be able to post links.
Well, probably. You know, this is on my channel,
Mhm.
so I should have.
Although, actually, do you mind if we do like 30 minutes about the topic and then we bring people in? Would that be okay?
Yeah, this is actually your show. Yes, well, I'm cool with it. No, seriously, like
Highly experimental show.
Well, no, I thought you guys were going to send me a link, and I'm
Well,
like,
the thing was, it was a lot of fun doing like when Grizz brought us onto his channel to do it as a live stream. That I thought was a really fun thing where it's like, okay, we're not just doing our show, we're doing it like we're playing around with this idea. Like, do our show on someone else's channel, on their channel, right?
oh, okay, I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's also live. Like that's cool. Yeah.
No, I like it quite a bit. The people that I talk to, minister to on my channel are predominantly 25 to 35-year-old, probably white males who are into hallucinogenics, existential crisis, witchcraft, and then they're into the new age girls as well, tarot cards, crystals. So when you said you wanted to talk about entities, I'm like, dude, you're talking my language. So now I'm going to try to copy this. So
also, I think it's coming through from you, Ron. Can you mute Discord? There should be a way to like go into the audio settings and then.
Oh yeah, you're right. I see.
Just trying to be slightly conscientious about noise pollution.
How do I close? Can I log? Is it still occurring?
I will let you know if I hear it again.
I closed it. I don't know if closing Discord. Let me see. I'll log out just to make sure. Figure out how to log out, please.
And I do want to give a bit of a caveat too, because and it came up a bit while I was streaming last night, but you don't necessarily want to name certain things because there's a danger in doing so.
Names of demons or what?
Something like that, yeah. Not just that, but that's a big part of it.
Okay, now, if I may, I don't. All right, since this is your show, I'll do what you want, but honestly, no. And I'll tell you what. We win. Suicide, addiction, anger, fear, lust, anything that's dark, you never fear it. You attack on sight. Because it is in the name of Jesus that we win. And so I'm
into that. Yeah.
Okay, and so man, what I try to do is tell everyone what I did wrong and say don't do it. And I've done a lot wrong. Part of it was being afraid about mentioning the stuff. Now I don't hyper accentuate the stuff. And if we're gonna talk about demons, and I'm cool with that, then let's also talk about angels.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, dude, I got some woo. I got some angel woo cake. So
okay, that's cool. So, because this is like truly experimental, we didn't even talk about this topic with Afrael. So. I also came up with something, like maybe if I am able to share at some point, I would like to discuss this type of things with you, because one of the things that I am interested in the topic of entities and how to deal with them. First of all, can we also address fictional entities?
Come again?
Fictional.
Fictional.
Like Thor and Superman?
No, something like completely unknown. Like if you encounter something that you don't know, because that's the idea, right? When
Okay.
dealing with entities, normally it's something that you don't know. Like maybe after the event, you will be able to recognize that entity or whatever that may be. But during the actual encounter, you don't know what that is. So it's also this element of the unknown, right? So I've prepared something that I am almost certain that you guys never seen before. So that would be what I want to offer here. So
Okay.
Yeah.
cool.
Well, do you want to give us a formal introduction,
Yeah.
Mr. Harris?
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a live episode of 30 minutes or more. Today, we will be addressing the peculiar topic of dealing with entities. I am here with my fellow Afrael Pilotson, the man who falls 7 times and rises up 8. We are deeply honored to be hosted and to have with us Mr. Ron Copperman, one of the 2 masters of the House of Wu. Ron is a self-proclaimed all-loving ex-hippie and an ex-Buddhist for 20 years who met Jesus one day, and the rest is history, or rather living history. So here we all are together now with open hearts and open minds to peek into this interesting domain of entities and to discuss how we can deal with them exactly. So, yeah.
Also, I do want to give a little bit of a disclaimer too. I feel like this is one of those topics where it's starting to tread into the woo, where especially folks who are hard materialists are going to just shake their head and be very dismissive about it. And I would just ask for those folks, like, I know that you don't believe that this is the case, but I would just ask that you listen with an open mind and an open heart, because there may come a time in your life when something comes up where this information might be useful, even if you don't think it's true right now.
Yeah.
You know, what I would suggest is steel man their position, like to honor them.
Yep.
And see where that, like, okay, give them their due. And then if I have something worthwhile to say, or you guys do, then that way they have something worth listening to.
Yep.
Okay. So also another small disclaimer from my side. The reason I am wearing the helmet is because we are dealing with entities. So I came ready.
Should I go goggles down for this one?
Oh, goggles down.
Okay. So I will try to share my screen. Let me see if I can do it. Okay, Ron, you've mentioned Ron, the painter, and Bob Ross.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, do you see my screen?
Codex. I
Yeah.
see. Should I add that to the stage?
Yeah, maybe others can do it. Okay, cool. We'll see. So this is a very interesting manuscript. It's an illuminated manuscript called Codex Seraphianus. It's a very obscure type of work. It was published back in the early 1980s. And it's a manuscript created by an Italian artist, and it's completely based on what we call asemic writing. So it's a manuscript, yeah, and it has the what is called basically is writing where you cannot identify the writing. So it's something like gibberish, but it looks like a proper alphabet, maybe in an unknown language. So it's a whole manuscript, and let's see what this guy created. Okay, and maybe we can discuss. Feel free, by the way, to tell me to stop scrolling at any point. Okay. So this is the name, Codex Seraphianus. You will see all sort of and different fictional entities, basically, here. Things you can see this, yeah, you can see this, it's a chicken. I don't know what it is. It looks like one.
But it's giving out a turd or something. I don't know.
An egg, I think.
Egg, turd. Okay, it's something.
Yeah, and you can see the writing. It's calligraphic, but it doesn't. It's not really legible.
Right.
Okay.
It's a picture book.
Hmm.
Hey, Ups,
But-
how old is this? Neil asked in the chat.
1981.
1981. So it's not that old.
Yeah, it's not that old. It's like 45 years old. So yeah.
If I was on acid, I could probably figure this out.
I am sure that a lot of people think that because, it's a whole, it imitates an actual manuscript. So you
Yeah.
have these columns and you have the capital, some letters are capital. You
It
have
looks
these,
like it's just coded.
these
Yeah.
charts. Yeah. So a lot of people, they were trying to make sense of it. But the creator, he said like, no, this is like a Semitic language. It doesn't mean anything, but it gives you, he wanted to recreate the feeling that we had as children before we learn reading. When
Of
we
what it
account-
looks like.
yeah, that feeling. So that's the idea. And it also has to do with these fictional entities.
I have an idea for you.
Uh-huh.
Just feed that into Chat GTP and see what it comes up with.
Okay. It's a PDF, so yeah.
It is. It's good looking. I mean, it's really well done. It reminds me of Tolkien's Elvish writing.
So yeah, this is what I was going after. Like, what emotions or thoughts or ideas that it evokes to us.
I mean,
Because-
the slashes, if you go back up just a little bit,
Uh-huh.
that reminds me of the VNA logo symbol thing.
Okay.
Reminds me of Harry Potter and like one of their spell books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has like a lot of different sections, I think, if I remember correctly, with flowers and
In the movie The Half-Blood Prince of Harry Potter, they had books for like a chemistry spell class. This looks like it'd be perfect for that.
By the way, it's a good illustration in terms of illustrations. So, but it doesn't really. It looks like something we've encountered before, but not really. So I've never looked.
It's a lot of effort and time to put into
Yeah.
something that's just a hallucination, though. I don't know.
No,
It just
that's-
seems very odd to me.
It's a work of art to
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Dr. Seuss too. It's a little creepy. Not all, but I mean, Dr. Seuss was creepy. This is just weird.
Yeah. I think the emotion it evokes in me, it's what they call the sublime.
Okay.
We're getting warnings in the chat, by the way, that we shouldn't be trying to engage with something like this.
Oh Lord, come on. You listen. I honestly, I don't. Not here's the thing. I've had experience with the demonic, and I hate it. And I've had experience with the angelic, like it. This to me, it reminds me more of art. It doesn't. But I don't want to say just because I have strong faith that I don't want to blast someone over. But I'm like, the warnings I take with a grain of salt, just because,
Mhm.
like, okay, why are you warning me? How is this sin? Right now, we're just checking stuff out.
Yeah. By the way, if you want me to stop sharing at any point, tell me to do so, or scrolling or whatever.
Yeah, it's an apricot.
Yeah.
That's funny. It looks
And
like something out of the Far Side.
And it's to answer not only it wasn't really a question, but I think that it definitely deserves to be addressed. George Coggins' comment. I don't think any of us are suggesting to deliberately seek this stuff out. As far as entities or other supernatural things, it's more of sometimes this stuff finds people and they are grossly unprepared to deal with it. And I think that that's something that at least to be made aware of like, hey, like this, if you find yourself in trouble, right? Like it's the same thing as like if you're sick and you don't know how to fix yourself, you go to a hospital. It's like if you find yourself dealing with things that are beyond your comprehension, then you probably should know in advance who you can trust and where you should go to get a handle on it. And it's really, really hard to be able to do that too.
You know, this reminds me of impressionistic art. What is
Yeah.
it? Tayo said it's absurd. I'm like, it does remind me of art that has it's beautiful, absurd art.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And I
know,
think it has to do with the book as an object and not in terms of the actual content,
Mhm.
but in terms of its I don't know how to call it, bookness.
Mhm.
mhm.
Well, here's a question.
Some
So,
of these are really beautiful, by the way.
That's
Yeah.
pretty.
Mhm.
Or that's cool. I see a poem in that one.
Mhm.
Something about moths and lights. It's
Well, it reminds me. It's been a long time since I did this, but I think it was something that was published as like an extra book for the Artemis Fowl series, something that was like a little extra story with some fun stuff for kids to do inside of it. And one of them was like they reformulated how to write English. And so, but what you were able to do if you practiced it with that was you were able to read that script, even though it was completely arbitrary symbols, you could read the English out of it.
right, right.
And that's kind of like the impression I'm getting with this is that whatever this script is it looks like it's just a coded transcription or something of maybe not English but some language, because there's consistencies.
Well,
Scroll back up to the top of that page. That
especially in the
PL
title.
looking thing at the start of each one of those sections, like that's consistent across each page. So
mhm.
whatever it is, it's not completely random. There is
No,
some level of
It has an eternal consistency in that you can find in all the world building activities, like in the works of Tolkien or Lewis.
What is this text called?
Codex Seraphianus.
Okay.
I don't know. I have the Wikipedia article. I will share it in the
Okay.
in the private chat, and maybe somebody can.
I think
post
Rob's
it
the only
in-
one who can post links.
Okay.
Oh wait, you want here? I'll post. I can see it.
And honestly, like I'm fine with going through this because there's other things that I'm aware of that probably should be avoided. Like this seems like it's relatively safe. So I won't name the other work that I'm thinking of. People can
Yeah. This is
Yes.
why I opted for this and not anything else.
yeah.
Well, for me, this would be like Jonathan Peugeot would probably love this.
Mhm.
For
Trying
me,
to work out the symbology
oh
inside of it.
yeah.
Oh,
When
this
you
is
do-
interesting.
Let me see.
Yeah, you understand what I was saying before. Like, this is what I mean by encountering something unknown.
Well, this is
You
what this
have
is
this
doing
feeling-
here. This is describing Edenic patterns.
What?
Okay, scroll back up to the top of this section,
Here?
like a little bit further up. And like this, the thing that you have to keep in mind a little bit further up, a little bit further up. and make sure that there's not another one on another page. I think that was the start of it. Oh, a little bit more. Okay, yeah, back down and then, or okay, yeah, no, sorry, further up. Okay, I think that's the start of it. Yeah, that's the start of it. So the start of the walled drawings. Those. It's, and I could just be projecting onto this, and that's something that you always have to keep in mind when you're trying to engage with anything like this. But this series of drawings, what that says to me is that these are tried and failed Edenic patterns of like how did the walls to allow for creation to exist attempts to construct those walls, and then how to try and incorporate the darkness or allow the darkness to incorporate itself into that construction, and then what the nature of the successes or failures of each of those attempted designs were.
Okay, that's interesting. You are offering your own interpretation, and it's good.
Yeah.
It's good, yeah. I am just feeling perplexed by the whole thing. I remember stumbling upon it many years ago, and now that I am looking at it, it still has the that same effect on me, like this perplexity, somewhat good curiosity, and
like the two trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do agree there are a lot of absurdist elements here, and yeah, I like that in a way.
Somebody had mentioned it's George says it looks like a work of art combined with fairy tales.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it describes a fictional world, right? And the creatures and the plants and the everything that we might encounter there.
Oh my gosh, is that a scene
funny.
from Finding Nemo?
That's funny. That's pretty good. You know, there's something, and going back to the entities thing, the theme of the show. Here's the thing: what I feel from this is nothing malevolent.
Yeah, me too.
It's more like fairy tale.
It's experimental.
And a little bit of the Far Side. It's got some fun.
Little yeah. Little bit of go.
Yeah, Hadis, do you mind answering Teo's question of what why this work in the context of entities?
Because basically, I believe that entities have many different classes. In one class, the most neutral, it's the fictional class of entities.
Okay.
And those that we encounter in fictional works of art, like science fiction, maybe mythological works, and even this type of most recent efforts in creating like something like this. So yeah, because the topic of the stream was how to dealing with entities. So this is what I am trying to do here.
You want to go back to it? Listen, there you go.
Okay.
You guys tell me what you want up on the screen at any given moment. So you're saying, I like that. It's interesting. I never thought of fairy tales as entities. I knew they had, for me, spiritual undertones, like Lord of the Rings, but to actually have, it makes sense that you would have an entity. If something spiritual is going to have an entity, a motivating factor associated with it.
Yeah.
Very similar to the mind of Tim Burton. Except Tim Burton's a little creepier.
Yeah.
This is the one from the cover. Yeah. And birds or... Okay. So I remember this one.
Oh my gosh.
Some creepy stuff once in a while.
Yeah. Well, because the thing that this is just making me think of is it's showing broken patterns.
Oh, like this pattern here, it's like a, I don't know, self recursion.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie Eraserhead? It's a
No.
cult classic. It's a cult class. That one reminds me of Eraserhead. It's
Hmm.
don't see it, especially with drugs. It's a classic, but it's weird.
Hmm.
Okay, so I will stop sharing, I think.
Hmm.
No need to go. We have seen like almost,
Oops.
let me go to 100 page,
Hmm.
and that's about it.
Flying reindeer.
On a zip line between two.
Yeah, like the actual drawing of the deer, it's pretty good, man.
Oh yeah, it's good art.
Who haves a push me pull you?
I mean, whoever did this, they invested a lot of time and effort, and I'm not kidding you. I'd like put all that text into Chat GDP and see what it comes up with. I mean, it could be ramble, it could be gibberish, or at least you can find out what. It reminds me of a Rorschach test. It's like there's nothing there, but
you project it. Yeah. Okay, that was my experiment for the stream. So, Afrael, what do you want to add? Or
well, I really want to just hear from Ron, because I know that Ron, you have a lot of talking with folks and a lot of describing your own experiences on your channel. And the thing that I definitely want to focus on, but I'm willing to let the conversation go where it does, is that idea of how do you prepare someone who believes in entities but has no experience with them, or someone who is completely rejecting of the idea of the supernatural? How do you give them, what tools, if any, can you give them to not get completely decimated by that kind of an experience?
This is going to sound so funny. It's so easy. Love. The love of God. And if you don't have the love of God, the genuine love of a family member, because the love of God, period. If you can, because if you have a candle, well, instead of me getting all talky, like, dude, love of God, or just love, are they loving, and if they are not, if they've never experienced love, work on that, because then you will overcome all darkness in and with love. It is
that simple.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want to know what the other side, it's so easy, because depression, everyone knows someone who's been depressed, and you don't come down on them. You walk them through it. And so the funny thing, that's because I've dealt with that. It was a spirit of depression because I had unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is the opposite of love. If you would like to become possessed, just get unforgiving and be angry for a long time. Something will happen for you. But you asked the question is, so let's say you're a materialist and you don't believe in any of this. If you're loving, you're actually going to be fairly protected from quite a bit of junk. And then if you're a materialist, a lot of times you just don't even care about it, and that might protect you a little bit. And the worst case is you're a materialist and you're like a puppet on a string and you don't even know you're getting played. until maybe you fall in love.
Hmm.
There was a girl, Ashley, I talked with.
Mhm.
She was a materialist, like a nihilist. I think materialism and nihilism are hand in hand. Does that sound fair?
Yep.
Okay. When she had her baby, her child,
Mhm.
she looked at her child and there was so much love. She goes, my child matters. My child isn't just material.
Mhm.
And it's not just, when we die, we go back into the ocean and of, or into some great void of darkness.
Mhm.
And that's what snapped her out of it. And then she allowed God to work in her life by basically musing on that. And one day he talked with her when she wasn't even asking, when she was just watching her kids play. And a song came on the radio and it just touched her heart.
Mhm.
And love became alive in her heart. And that's what I mean in the experience with Christ. There's a living love. So
Mhm.
that's so like protecting yourselves from demons. You don't really have to. If you just go like, hey, Jesus, I'm cool with you.
Mhm.
And you try as your best you can to love God with your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Dude, you're going to be okay.
It's just refinement from there. Yeah.
By the way, Tayo posted a question: is fear an entity?
Yeah, I've experienced a spirit of fear.
Yeah.
And I want to be careful because, man, I am going to throw it out there and I'll ask you guys to help me clean it up.
Mhm.
Yes, there is a spirit of fear.
Mhm.
I don't know if these, like when I've been bad, like when I'm crossing lines, when I'm going somewhere, like I'm going to do something or I'm thinking something, I will actually feel a spiritual fear. I felt it. And once and what happened is that fear was actually a good thing because it turned me away from being bad. There are other kinds of fear that are strictly demonic where they are used to oppress you.
Mhm.
Fear from God, the fear of God leads to repentance, which leads to being okay. Fear of man or the fear from Satan will debilitate you to hurt. It is so like you get scared by a dog barking. That's not. I don't think that's a demon. But there's a special kind of fear where you feel like for no freaking reason it hits you.
Mhm.
Like sleep paralysis is also often accompanied by fear. That is a spiritual fear, and then I've heard people overcome it. They go, they sit in it, they struggle through it, and then when they in their mind, it's like when they say the name of Jesus, it breaks. It's not every time that way, but I've seen it enough to say, yeah, that's what I've seen. Spirit of there is a spirit of fear, and as well as boldness, which is the opposite, and love, the opposite of fear. I think I'm always so.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that, Ron. I don't know if Neil is still in the hive mind, but I also had something else prepared just in case he was gonna join us.
Should I post a link?
Yeah. We've been going for about 30 minutes. I think it's about time.
I only want to do what you guys. Oh wait, this is not that link. That's the what is it? Chat or not the chat. I gotta go find it.
Also,
Can
this
you
might sound
post
a little.
it or no?
I don't think I can.
That's all right. I will. find it.
I can give it to you in the private chat, though.
Yeah, cool.
There you go.
Cool.
Did I just hide the comments by accident for everyone, or just me?
Oh, you just took the one off that was highlighted, so you're good.
Okay, so here's the private. So where's? I'm looking for.
It should be on the right side of the screen for you with StreamYard.
Don't
It should be
you-
comments in private chat.
Oh,
and then
come on, guys. I'm in the private chat.
the appurtenances are not tuned properly.
I know. Oh, dude, I'm. Wait a second. Here we go. All right. Copy. I'm going to post 2 links because I can't separate them. One is for. Let's see. I hope. One is going to be the chat link. The other one is for the article from Wikipedia. Can you see that, sir?
Oh, you posted it in the private chat. There should be another one that's where it says comments. If you post it in that one, it should be able to come up.
I was laughing at me. That's rude, dude. That's English. English
Okay, boomer.
boomer. So is that the
There you
wiki
go.
link? Or is that? I see.
It cut off the StreamYard link.
Crap.
Yeah. If you just right click on where I have it, there should be a copy clean link, and then you should be able to just paste it in comments.
Copy link address.
Yep. And then try and paste that in the comments.
Okay. Ah. Oh, look at me.
Ta-da!
Well, as a ninja. So what is your interest in this? What are you thinking so far? What have you encountered? And how is your life in Christ? You know, I already know my stuff, and I'm at the point now where I'm tired of it. What interests me in the corner here is people who have never had a lot of encounters, who are having genuine cool moments with God.
Mhm.
Like meeting Christ. They've been saved for a long time, but they're really knowing they're meeting him.
Mhm.
And that to me is just so cool. Like I dig that.
Mhm.
You know, because that's actually the hero's journey. That's the ultimate hero's journey. I was in a bad way, went really dark, asked for God to help me, and then whammo. That's fun.
Do you want to go first, Teddy's?
Yeah, what I can add is the following. Whenever I listen to someone saying that they encounter Jesus face to face, especially, I get goosebumps, and the reason is because, and now I'm talking for me personally, the closest I ever came to that type of experience was when I basically. I don't remember my dreams. I hardly ever remember them. Like I only remember like 10, 12 dreams in my whole life, and I am like 43 years old now. But the very first thing that I remember from my childhood, like my earliest memory, was when I was 5 years old. It was the day before my birthday, and I will not say the whole story because it's really personal, but I've encountered I was blessed to see the feet of the Lord.
Oh,
Okay, and for me that's all I needed.
wow.
Like that's why I still have faith. You know, it was always something very close to me. So yeah.
So was that moment transformative?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I know this might not make a lot of sense, but one of the for me, the most interesting question, and this is coming from someone that is an independent researcher, like that try to tackle many different scientific problems and
Mhm.
curiosities and all of that.
Mhm.
For me, the most interesting question is how many nails were used in the cross when they crucified the Lord. Like, was it 4 or was it 3? And the reason I was interested, it was because I've seen the feet on the cross, so I've also seen the nail.
Oh, so you know.
So, yeah,
Oh, dude, right? So what's up? Give it up. 4 or 3. Paper or plastic? What's the answer?
Paper or plastic.
no, for me it was 1.
Okay, cool.
It was 1. It was a single one, so that will be 3 in
All
total,
right,
right?
cool. No, I love it.
Yeah.
Nails are expensive, man. You gotta.
It's economy, sir.
I feel like that would be something from like Life of Brian or some other
I'm not going to
Monty Python
waste
style
4
sketch.
nails on this Hebrew. Offering you 3, and I'm taking home 1 to the wife. I can
It's
hang
like
the
the-
shield on it.
It's like the ancient version of stealing copper from a construction site.
Love it.
Oh man.
So yeah,
No, that's cool. It's so you got. Oh, dude, that's you see Jesus. Something's going to happen,
yeah,
and that was when you were 5.
yeah,
Wow, that's cool.
yeah. And
So-
when I visited, not only in Eastern Orthodoxy, but in the icons, but also when I visited some Catholic monasteries, like in Central Europe, where they have statues, I've noticed the difference. Like in some cases, they use 2 nails, and in others 1.
Mhm.
So it's not
Really?
something. It's not a question that it's has been answered or whatever. So I'm not saying that I am providing an answer. I'm just saying what I believe personally.
Dude, you don't understand. I believe you. I'm like, it's almost like you said, if you said God was talking about me, I'd be like, I wouldn't be doubting you. I'd be like, what did he say?
Yeah.
And did he mention Vegas? But
Yeah.
no, I'm
No,
glad.
I'm not doubting. I'm just saying that in various different depictions, they use both. So
Right.
I'm just noticing that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, so Afra, your turn.
Well, I don't have any testimony with Jesus specifically. And as far as the conversation goes, the main thing that has been really helpful for me personally is the recognition that some of the difficulties that I'm facing in terms of intrusive thoughts,
Right.
that might not just be me, that there's other things that are, and it might be partly me, right? But that there's also the potential that there's other things that are creeping in and trying to pepper me with things. Like and I'll give it as an example. It's more peripheral, but one of the things that I've noticed over time is that, like, just scrolling through my YouTube feed, right, you'll get a lot of either content or ads that are very sexually suggestive. And the intent with that is like, and I don't know if this is a conscious intent, but this is something that I've at least noticed is like how my interpretation of it is it's trying to batter you down slowly. It's trying to weaken your resolve as far as it wants you to engage lustfully.
Yeah.
And it's trying to slowly wear you down, slowly wear your willpower and your resistance down by chipping away at it over and over and over again. And that's not the only example, but that's probably one of the most common ones that I see in the world today. And that's
Yeah.
obviously that's not so much supernatural, or at least it's not the direct transmission from my phone to me doesn't have a supernatural bent, but the sorts of intrusive thoughts that I've had to deal with, it feels very similar, where it feels like it's something that's trying to slowly whittle you down over time. Yeah.
Yeah, we call that in Orthodoxy logismi. I've shared this link. I don't know if Ron can also copied it in the
we can
chat for the other.
I'll just post the
Um,
word for it.
Oh yeah, if you
And
put
if
it
people want to
in,
look it up on
Yeah.
Wikipedia, they can.
you can put it in.
Yeah, it's like it's the word we use for these intrusive or tempting or assaultive thoughts. So
Okay, I'll post it right now.
and the whole and the whole idea is to try to not to. It's like the passions. You don't become passionless, but you learn slowly how to put it aside, you know, and not to ignore it, but like, no, that's not for me, you know.
Well, here's another thing too. And the thing that I'm about to say, I've seen corroborated, or at least the pattern corroborated in other stories as well. But one of the ways that the good will help you deal with addiction, if you genuinely pray for salvation from it, is it will help you to become disgusted with the thing that you are having a difficult time resisting. So, and that's like, especially with tobacco usage. That was one, I forget where I saw the story, but somebody posted a story about how they, and not recommending that people do this, but they had been struggling with smoking, and they went and they did an ayahuasca ceremony, and they met a spirit shaman, and the spirit shaman asked, do you really want me to help you with this? Because it's not going to be fun. It's going to be very intrusive for me to help you with this. And they said, yes, please. And basically what that spirit shaman did was it went into them and cut away the part of them that was this, to borrow from the sort of Hindu term samskar, it cut that out of them, and it was very painful for them to go through. And then they tried to light up a cigarette after they like sometime after that, and they couldn't stand the taste of the smoke. It made them disgusted with it. Okay,
I have two things to share on that. There is, first of all, at Mount Athos, if you go and you ask the monks over there, they will tell you, or even if they see you like smoking, they will tell you that's a sin. You should stop. So, and the reason behind it that it's a sin is because, you know, when we say and don't harm anyone, that also includes don't harm yourself. So that's the reason. And the other thing is that I remember some years ago, I had a friend, a very good lawyer, a partner at a law firm, and he was a very passionate smoker. And he learned about a Greek therapist that visits the island. Like, he actually takes a plane and comes once per month, and charges $7,000 more or less to have what is called a mono session. And that is a single session. And during that session, that therapist, a woman, she was guaranteeing that she will be able to make any smoker quit smoking. And my friend went there, and indeed, he didn't want to smoke after that. So more or less, it's what you described with the ayahuasca over there. but I know how she did it because my friend told me. So if you want, I can tell you.
Please.
So you enter into her office. Okay, you sit down in a couch like as if it's a, like a proper psychotherapist, and she has a chat with you. She asks you how many packets you smoke per day. You give the answer, and then she goes to you. Okay, today we are gonna break the habit, and but before we do that, let's celebrate. And she steps up. She goes to a cabinet. She opens it, and she has all the different brands of cigarettes and cigars in it. And she asks the individual, like, what's your brand? And you answer. And she brings a whole a full pack, like a full package with 10 packets. And she goes to you, okay. She brings an ashtray, and she tells you, smoke.
Smoke as much as you want.
Smoke as much as you want. And she keeps doing that. Like she's discussing with you, and every time you stop smoking a cigarette, she offers you the lighter to continue smoking. And she keeps doing that for as long as it takes until the point you realize that I already have had enough. So that's how it works. And after that, as my friend told me, and many others that he suggested to visit there, it also worked. So yeah, that's how they do it. I think it's a form of hypnosis in a way, like active hypnosis. I don't know how to describe that.
Yep.
But whatever the case, it's interesting. Yeah.
The ayahuasca one, I would have to do a timeout on, a hard timeout.
Yeah.
Not hating, but basically there's a demon getting you rid of a lower demon in exchange for a higher demon.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Okay, here's.
And it sounds so. I know what it. Go ahead.
Before you do that, can you pin the StreamYard link just in case people come in and they do want to jump in?
How do I pin a StreamYard link?
You should be able to go to the comment where you posted it. And I don't know how StreamYard does it because I haven't done it through StreamYard before. But there should be a way of like selecting the comment and then pinning it.
Let me see. Put user in timeout. Ban. Okay, I don't want to ban myself.
Whoa.
What have I done?
We're not going that crazy, are we?
No, on me. I'm banning myself.
No.
I start it. Does that pin it? Or else I what I'll do is I'll make sure I'll keep an eye on it and make sure. So the link is there. Oh wait,
yes. Star just makes it so that it's visible in the background.
Yeah. Okay. Ron, when you finish with that, I want to kindly ask you if you can highlight what I am sharing backstage. I'm sharing a little link.
You mean the book, or I see the book?
Yeah, the book.
Okay.
Okay, this is what I've prepared, and just in case Neil decides to join. So, yeah.
Jung Daedalus.
Yes. This has to do with, once again, back to the topics of entities. This has to do with unconscious entities. So, yeah. I will not scroll through it, but it's there.
The new book.
Yeah.
The red book. Oh, Jung had. He had. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Basically, this was like Jung was working on this book, much in the same manner that Tolkien was working on the Silmarillion. It was like his magnum opus, how they call it. So he was working on that book, and out of this book, everything else that he wrote came out. And this specific one, it was like it wasn't in publication, but a few scholars and friends and students of Jung had access to part of it. But recently it got published, like I think 10 years ago or so, and by this guy, Sonu Samtasi. Ganatsi, yeah. And the book, basically it's his encounters with the unconscious, like when he realized to go full throttle mode. Yeah. And interestingly enough, personally, I believe that Jung was like, he qualifies as what we called an outsider artist. Because by definition, the outsider artists are those that they are not trained professionally in arts, like Bob Ross, but they are they feel this need, this inner urge to paint. And interestingly enough, he painted what we can identify as mandalas and some other figures of the unconscious. So.
So, okay, here's. I want to jump back again because I am curious, Ron. Is it not possible that that whatever you meet through an ayahuasca ceremony is actually angelic and not demonic? Like, you seem very, very confident that it has to be demonic.
No.
Okay.
I am not. I have a friend. I won't use any names, and she did ayahuasca 9 times, and was at a Buddhist Vipassana retreat, silent retreat, and Jesus showed up at the retreat, gave her a dream, and whammo, she was. It wasn't ripped out; it was more like invited, but other people. I will absolutely say they have met angelic beings in these ceremonies. They've met Jesus in these ceremonies. It's just statistically.
That's not what you're going to get.
Well, yeah, it's like playing the lottery.
Yeah.
Like, and if, by the way, your life depends on it, or your mind,
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's some good stories, but there's also mostly. So, yeah, if I sound. Dude, I guess I am one of those guys. I'm like, most of the time you are in trouble because if you meet Jesus or an angel on ayahuasca, it's because you're screwed.
Because you need saving.
Yeah, like you're about to go over the cliff. You got some guy, in the white robe going, would you like to get out of here? You're like, yes, please. The walls are melting. His son was it's like, so. But Elizabeth Oldfield their community has been meeting, it's grown, and they usually go to Orthodox. It's so weird. They go straight ortho, bro. But so anyhow, so I'm profoundly against it, and yes, sometimes good can come out of it.
Okay. Well, yeah. Because should I bring up my Japan story that I told you in private, or is that something that should stay in private?
Whenever you deal with something, treat it like you would something valuable. Because my mistake, dude, every time I had an encounter, I would blab it. And I want you to share whatever you want to share, but if I could go back and tell myself one thing, it'd be like, love God and keep your mouth shut. So with that in mind, just protect yourself.
Yeah, no, okay. I'll keep that more under wraps then. But I do want to talk about the general pattern that I've noticed that kind of fits in with, which is, generally speaking, it seems like the good ones are going to just tell you, continue to love the people and the things that are in your life. They won't try to coerce you. They won't try to tempt you. And that the respect of free will seems to be a really good indicator of what it is that you're engaging with.
That's
'Cause
interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The stuff that's all, even if it's not Jesus himself, the stuff that's aligned with Jesus and the forces of good, it will never force you, from what I can tell, will never force you to do things, even good things. It
Right.
has to be from you. It has to be your choice if that's the way you want to go. Where the bad stuff will absolutely try and
It
get
will
in on you
drive
and
you.
force you. Yeah.
Jesus was led into the wilderness after the Holy Spirit rested on him, or however you want to put it.
Mhm.
The legion, and they are driven. There's a big difference. One's by chains, the other one's by invitation. So yeah.
Which is funny because in order to really get their hooks in you, it seems like the bad guys do need to have some level of consent from you. Like they can't completely violate your free will arbitrarily, but the thing, what constitutes consent can be very, very small, and you might not realize that that's what you're doing. That's what you're giving to them.
The one, yes, I think you're right, but the cheat code for that is trauma.
Yep.
And the second one with a bullet is unforgiveness.
Yep.
But trauma, you're a kid and something just bad happens to you. So it's not that it circumvents your free will. Help me out or let's say
I'm actually not sure why it works that way. I agree with you that is the case, but I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I really don't know why.
Well, then maybe it's because it's a spiritual moment. Real trauma in some way is a demonic spirit, can be a spiritual moment. Fear, like someone asked me about a spirit of fear, that you can have moments where spirits come in. I think maybe that's where people are open.
Oh, here's a thought. And this is something that in part I'm pulling from, there's an anime series, the first one that, it's like a whole bunch of different series with different names, but the first one that I saw was Bakemonogatari. And the overarching theme of that show is how, like, people encountering trauma and asking something to help them deal with that trauma, not understanding what the consequences of that are, and the entities themselves not necessarily being negative, just being relatively neutral. But then that person, like the first story is of a girl who almost gets molested by a cult leader, that her mom joined the cult because her daughter was incredibly sick, and she prayed with them to get her daughter better, and then daughter got better, mom got sucked deeper into the cult. Mom eventually presented the daughter to the cult leader, and she was able to fight him off, but that was an incredibly traumatic event, and their family ended up breaking apart. And she, as a child, couldn't bear the weight of that experience, and so she called something out and asked it to bear the weight for her without even realizing that's what she did.
Okay. Are we talking almost like a multiple personality moment?
Not a multiple personality moment, more like asking something else to take the emotional weight away from her. And what ends up happening is that she loses her physical weight as well within the context of this story. Is this fictional? All fictional. Yeah.
Because you hear not the problem. I've actually heard that happen.
Oh.
Where that sounds like and I'm all about psychology and everything and blah, blah, but I've heard that's when kids pick up multiple personalities and or a demon.
Yep.
And or an angel. Because in the moment of crisis, they call out to God or just, and then all of a sudden, big shiny guy shows up and either comforts them or gets the bad guys to go away, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always a bad story. So it's funny because your anime seems close to, I've heard that.
Yeah. Well, and the way that the story gets resolved is that she has to ask that Kami for her weight back again. And she has to then deal with all of the suppressed emotions. And because in order to get her physical weight back, she has to, I'm sorry, I'm tearing up a little bit because it's a really powerful moment in the story, because it's like, okay, you're having to then take all of that emotional weight back onto yourself and really deal with it and process it and take ownership of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Rather than just allowing it to be pushed off onto something else.
Oh, that's interesting. In Christ, it's interesting because you get to have, at a best moment, you get to have his love flood in,
mm-hmm.
and he usually goes to all the places you bury.
Yep.
Usually it's the worst ones first. And then sometimes I met a girl, he actually took the memories away. She goes, when she was attacked and she tries to remember, it just goes white.
Mm.
But a lot of them, it's not that they remember it, but they know that doesn't define them, that moment. It's now that defines them. And Rafe Kelly gave a testimony at the Northwestuary.
Yes, he did.
That's straight woo. That's good. That's moonshine woo right there. And so with you guys, I deal with this stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. The critical thinking is something I'm trying to learn from you guys.
Mm.
And then the value of patterns and story and fairy tales. And I see, in my own life, when I first came here, I was a wreck. I had a bad moment with me in another church.
Mm-hmm.
And this place helped me process my pain, maybe not perfectly, but differently. And I didn't totally become bitter. That's a win.
Yep.
And I listen to people. There's so many smart people. I don't want to name names because I don't want to leave anyone out. But I'm hearing, I think there's I hope at the best, there seems to be a cross-pollination of the intellect and the woo. Not woo as in the condescending woo, but the mystery of Christ revealed within our hearts by some really smart people. And I freaking love it.
Yeah, that's not a woo, that's a yoo-hoo. That's good.
Yeah.
You
Well, I'm kind of, it's like me and Mark.
got his chocolate drink.
That's it.
Generally speaking, what they call in science a critical phenomena, they always manifest themselves during transitions. Mm-hmm. And I believe that's a good metaphor for what is going on in our lives. Whenever we encounter something profound, maybe it's like a mystical experience, maybe that is good. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's something it's bad, like a bad trip or whatever. Mm-hmm. It happens because something else, it's not it was caused because of something else. So it's very important to go and understand what was going on before that experience.
Mhm.
And going back to the topic of depression,
Mhm.
that is also one entity that is very real. Like if the person is currently at a vulnerable state and they encounter someone else that they highly respect and they look up to as the, I don't know, as the exemplar of courage, and that exemplar of courage shares with them that they are they are depressed,
Yeah.
will have this contagious effect to the other person. So you can see there is some form of transference going on
Right.
there. So you need to be prepared in order to, like defend against.
Yeah.
some things.
Not just defend against it, but it's kind of you can't save a drowning person if you don't know how to swim that well yourself.
Mhm, mhm.
And so
Or if you're drowning.
or if you're drowning yourself, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
There's one other thing I want to bring up too, if you guys don't mind, if I do a slightly abrupt topic change. One of the things,
Really,
because kill a girl. One of the things that I have come across, because I like to trawl through different forums and communities, and just glancing through some stuff within psychedelic communities. And I think Terence McKenna himself has said this particular line: "When you get the message, hang up the phone." And it's, I'm guessing that there's probably some people, especially within Christian circles, who might feel gypped if they don't get to experience God in the way that, like, this powerful testimony of the way that other people are talking about it. But one of these deep intuitions that I've gotten over the years is that whatever this game of life is that we're all playing,
right.
I think that you're supposed to, you have to be able to win it without going deep into the woo, because it seems to me that in order for the game to make sense, it had to be winnable by every human being within our history. That anybody could, within their lifetime, win whatever the game is. And so it does, like, advanced mathematics, advanced science are something that I really enjoy looking into and I'm deeply fascinated with, but they can't be a prerequisite for whatever game that's being played within life. It doesn't make sense for those understanding of those to be something that is required in order for you to be a good person, or to, whatever comes next, whether that's heaven, whether that's moving up in the spiritual octaves, whatever your beliefs are as far as that stuff goes, that has to be possible without some sort of an intervention, or without these deep technical understandings that we treasure so much within modern society.
Yeah.
Because if it's, when you get the message, hang up the phone, that means that you can have the message and not need to ever pick up the phone in the first place.
Okay.
yeah, I want you to unpack that. I want to understand it.
Okay, so I think that you can come to an understanding of love as reciprocal opening without ever needing to really, like, you don't need to be told that. You don't need, like, it helps sometimes to have someone to teach it, and you can get a lot further a lot faster. And especially, like, and this is one of those things that I'm less sure about, but I think is probably correct. you actually have to have a level of understanding of the negative aspect in order to properly love in the positive way. Because in order to really learn how to love, it has to be compassion informed by wisdom. And loving someone properly means loving them in a way that helps them and teaches them how to love others. If you are merely giving and giving and giving and loving in that way to someone who is a bucket with nothing but holes at the bottom, and they're, no matter how much you pour into them, it will always drain empty. That's not love. That's not really love. You have to, to truly love that person, you have to love them in a way that plugs the holes at the bottom of the bucket first, and then helps them to not only fill their own bucket, but to then help others to plug their holes and fill their buckets as well. That it has to be this something that it's not just giving giving something to someone, but you're giving the ability to them to give to others. That's, in my understanding, what it really means to love someone.
Okay, that was helpful. Thanks, man.
Yep,
Yeah.
Mo is exactly right. If the kingdom excludes the simple, it doesn't exist. It has to allow for that simple, pure love.
Also, I found it to be, it's actually yes, it's love, but it starts with faith, which
that was actually a really big thing for me. That I don't think Peterson meant to give it, but that was one of the things that I had received. This idea that, because I had been struggling for a long time, for years, ever since I deconstructed when I was in college, with this idea of existence being good needing to be provable. The way that I understand it now is I was stuck in a very Bertrand Russell kind of a mindset, where I believed if I just had the right set of axioms, that everything could be proven out from those axioms. And I didn't really make the connection with Gödel's objections to that until much later. But the thing that I got from Peterson was this idea that the belief of whether existence is good or evil is fundamentally axiomatic.
please explain more. Yeah.
So that belief is not something that can be proven by prior axioms. That what you end up coming to is that it's a decidable frame.
Mhm.
That, and whichever one that you choose to go down, it becomes a self-consistent system.
Mhm.
They're asymmetrical opposite systems, where the one where you believe that being is fundamentally flawed or evil or whatever,
Mhm.
that is a self-consistent system within its own framework. And what will happen within that system is it will take everything and eventually bring it back down into nothing.
Right.
But then that asymmetrical opposite of being is fundamentally good will continue to grow and grow and grow into glory to God in the highest over time. And what seems to be the challenge, and I'm treading into maybe dangerous territory here, because this is this is what my channel symbol is I'm trying to understand how, because the good side can't ignore the fact that, like, you have to allow for free will, you have to allow for choice, you have to allow for that reciprocal narrowing to be within the framework, even though it is axiomatically opposed to the good.
Right.
So how do you do that? How do you you can't bring them together in the ways that you see in a lot of occultic symbology, in my opinion. Like Baphomet is not the way to do it. You can't bring those two together into the same entity. They have to be still separate but somehow coupled. And my channel symbol is the best answer I have for that right now, and I don't know if it's correct. I don't know if that's the right way of handling it. And I'm like way off in the woo right now.
No, this isn't woo. It's because I remember you saying this, because eventually it always winds up in free will.
Yeah, it has to. I think it has to, at least.
Well, that actually works out, because it's faith, hope, and love.
Mm-hmm.
Love being the greatest, but it starts with faith, and you have a choice. It's just, are you in or are you out? You can do, what do you want? And God's like, by the way, I'd rather you in. Before you is death and life. Choose life. What you gonna do?
And it is a choice. Like it's not something that's provable. It is, and again, I don't know, because I'm reaching way beyond what I can comfortably say. Like, I don't have a well-grounded epistemology for the things that I'm talking about here, but I can't see it being another way. And until I have to work within that framework until I find something else, because existence just will not make sense to me if I don't.
Yeah. Okay. Let me add something to that.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if we don't have faith, it means that we don't have any form of metaphysics.
Yeah.
And we therefore rely into a cold scientific paradigm, maybe an atheistic one, maybe a nihilistic one, maybe whatever.
Well, what ends up happening with those, from what I see and from what I understand, is that what's actually happening within nihilism and within atheism is it's fundamentally a declaration of the self as sole God, as sole conscious entity within the universe.
Okay, so okay, hear me out. If the guiding principle in our lives,
mm-hmm.
it's reason, I believe that's it's only reason. I believe that's that's a tragedy. First of all, it's illusion, and it will really result into tragedy.
Mm.
And I remember I made one of the early brandings that I made.
Mm-hmm.
It was Grimm reciting Jung, and it was a very short excerpt that had to do with the symbol. Let me see if I can remember it. As the mind explores the symbol, it is led to believe in ideas that lie beyond the grasp of reason.
Mm.
What is beyond the grasp of reason? Faith.
Yep.
Understand? It's only faith. So even in those rare cases where you have someone that used to be a nihilist, when they encounter and they realize and internalize what faith is all about, they will be able to break into, and now I'm using a Wu language, into the veil of illusion and Maya, and I don't know how they call it. So to break the cycle, I don't know how to put it into words. But having faith is paramount. To be a good active citizen at minimum, like to care for others, and I know it's very, idealistic to believe that you should only care for the others.
Mhm.
But you need to revert a bit back on that hard position and care also about your own self a bit, you know,
Yep.
because that's also the plan. Like, to the others, you are the other, right?
Yep. Well, and not only that, but you can't actually care for other people if you don't care for yourself first. Like, that's a big part of it too. You have to take care of your own vehicle,
Mhm.
your own soul vehicle, whatever you want to call it, in order to be able to give that love to other
Called
people.
a body.
It's called a body.
It's called a body.
It's called a body.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also to pull up the channeling stuff that Grizz and I were talking about a bit last night too. One of the really interesting things that came out of that, from my perspective, was like, what does it mean for somebody to win either the good win con or the bad win condition? Sorry, I have a bad habit of using the coded language I picked up from the internet. In order to win as one of the good guys, you don't have to necessarily get completely to sainthood. What you have to do is you just have to be somebody who gives 51 parts for every 49 you receive. You just have to get over that threshold of giving more than you get by just ideally you get way over that threshold and you get to the point where you are giving way more than you're receiving, and in such a way where it is propagating out from you and it's not just you dumping water into holy buckets, as I was mentioning before.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Love, for me, it's all about giving. It's
Mhm.
not even about receiving. It's good to also receive whatever.
Well, what I mean is that you have to receive in order to continue to live, right? That's part of the nature of this. Like, I am incredibly grateful to the chickens that I've had that I like. 2 of them or 3 of them got killed by dogs. So one of them we buried and is now being fertilizer for our cherry tree. And then two of them we've cooked, and I have deeply appreciated their contribution to my own life. And so it's like, you do want to make sure that you are focusing on giving, but you also you want to be grateful for the things that you receive, because you have to receive in order to continue to live.
Yeah.
Can I throw something in? Because I'm going to spin off of Mark's comment.
Mhm.
He goes, what if all you need to do is tithe 10%? Ha, 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 ha. I'll be with you later.
It's such a good troll.
He
If I give 10% of my income to the church, I'm good, right? I don't have to do anything else.
said I had to pull over to ask that question. That's dedication. You get two points to Mark. 20 points for the House of Luke. Mike, actually, what's that?
No. I was doing my French impression of the Eurovision contest, where the maximum is 12 points.
Yeah.
And, 12 points. Too much.
That's it. So, to kind of not push back on it, but to flush that out.
Mhm.
What if, and I do mean this, what if the hardest part you have to deal with as a Christian is you're already a saint, you have moments of sin, you already are perfect, you're being perfected in love, and the thief on the cross would be a real good example of someone who just, statistically, I don't know how much he gave. Let's say he was in his 30s, same as Jesus. Just a rotten dude and deserved to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's say he was a bad guy and he really deserved to be there. But then at the last moment, he hears this one Jewish guy getting railed on, and something in him recognizes it. And he goes to the other guy, hey, why don't you shut up? We both belong here. You know that. This guy's cool. We got to leave him alone. And then, oh, there's Mark. Wait a second, I'm going to let him in. Mark.
Howdy, Mark.
Right.
Hey, welcome.
I wasn't meaning to troll you, Afriel. I wasn't trying to troll
No,
you.
no, not in a bad way, like in a funny way.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was a good shot.
No, one thing, my thing is that we give our 10%. I think you're right. A fit kind of 50 plus 1 kind of thing. But what if it's more like we give our 10 and God gives the difference? That it's multiplied. There's that parable, it's multiplied and overflowing. And I'm really bad at. I really got to get a chart together and memorize all the parables because I'm constantly referring to them and yet I can never remember where they're at. But you guys know what I'm talking about. Give and it will be given back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I wonder if the difference. Go ahead, guys. I'm sorry. I've got a little lag here.
No, I think it's the parable of the talents you are referring to, Mark.
Well, there is the parable of the talents where you have the faithful, the servants. You have the one. You have the guy who multiplies by 1, then one by another one that multiplies his by 10, and 1 by 5, and then there's a guy who buries his talent.
Right.
And he's thrown into utter darkness, which is pretty rough. But he really screws up. Don't bury your talent, whatever you do, right? There is another one that the TV preachers really like, where they talk about give it will be given unto you, multiplied, and the kind of the image is baskets overflowing. But anyway, my point being is that I don't know if we have to, how much effort we really need to make, but I think just the idea of giving, I think again, we're back to orientation. I think your orientation is right, Afriel. I'm just wondering if the demand that you place on yourself is unnecessarily severe. And that God, if in faith, God will make up whatever you lack. And it's not just the church, but the tithe is a tithe of everything. If you go back to Mosaic.
Mm-hmm. Also, you're getting a little robot-y on us, Mark, just so you know. The thing for me, like the 10%, the 10% tithing is very much like it's constrained within like an economic sense. And I think that is like an overly narrow definition of what I'm trying to refer to with that. Because what I mean, what I'm thinking when I hear that 51% is, am I like, one day you will return every single ounce of the love that you were given, something like that. Like it's you, as you're growing up as a child, you're receiving all of this love, all of this affection, all of these resources from your parents, from your family, from your community. Over the course of your life, are you then able to give back more than you received? And not just in terms of pure financial contributions, but like actually giving that love, that attention, that affection back in a way that will allow things to continue to propagate themselves out. That's what I hear when I hear that 50 plus 1.
The idea come? Is that something that originally?
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh,
are you on Wi-Fi? Can you get closer to the router?
In his car.
In his car. Okay.
I think you're actually. I disagree with Mark. I think that you're not being hard enough on yourself.
Oh, flog him one more time, son.
Piece of shit theology. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm here to bring the thunder.
Go for it.
So I think that you're at the part of the level that's still trying to figure out the best meta. And which means that you've totally lost the point of the game, right? Like once you're looking for a meta, you're no longer playing the game.
Well, so here's the interesting point that I would say in response to that, which is once you recognize that 51% is the threshold, that's if you aim for that, then you're missing the point entirely. Like it's more of like, I'm going to go as hard as I can into this and serve others as much as I can and pray to God that I can get over that threshold.
That
That I
sounds
can
like
actually
cool.
have the
Yeah, that's closer to what I wanted to say is that like it's not a percentage and it's probably not even a threshold. It's kind of I think of the rich young ruler, right? Like when this guy comes to Jesus in the middle of the night and basically says, "Good teacher, what must I do to be saved?" He at first says, well, for one, why do you call me good? And that's a whole nother discussion. But then he then says, well, you know, do you keep the law? And he lists them out, right?
Yep.
And then the guy says, yes, since I was a youth, I have kept these. I have upheld the Torah. And then Jesus looks at him and he loves him. And he says, okay, then one thing you lack, sell everything you have and give it to the poor.
Yep.
And the end of the story is the rich young ruler walks away sad because he had great wealth.
Yep.
And what to me, one way to interpret that is in what you were talking about with the like, it has to be like anybody on earth, every individual has to be able to win the game, quote unquote.
Yep.
And I think that that's 100% true. But I think that it's equally as true to recognize and to realize that we're not all playing the same game.
Yep.
And in that way, like, so the rich young ruler needs to give away all of his wealth. Maybe McMo needs to give away all of his silliness. You know, maybe Ups needs to give away. I don't know what Ups needs to give away, but you see where I'm going. Like, it's actually that God asks the greatest of us. He asks not just like for 100%, but he asks for the greatest thing that we've received back to him.
So the thing that I get, there's a couple of things that I get from that story. And I have a bad habit of interpreting scripture probably more than I should. But I'll just say it and we can play with it how we want to. So I think one of the ways that you could interpret that is that Jesus sees that the rich young ruler is doing a lot of good where he's at, and that Jesus maybe wants him to actually not give up his wealth. He wants him to continue to serve in his current position. And so he basically trolls the guy and says, do this impossible thing that I know that you're not going to do. So that way you'll stop being a weirdo about it and just go and live your life with love in the position that you're at. I don't think that's what that is.
Yeah, strikes me as a bit too convenient, but it's interesting for sure.
Yeah,
I wouldn't put it past him.
Well,
Yeah.
What the thing is that puts this earworm in the guy's head where now he thinks, okay, like every time that he's engaging with somebody, it's like, okay, how can I begin to give away my fortune? Maybe not all at once, but like, and this is something that I've thought about quite a bit in terms of economic stuff, is when you have an exchange happening between people, there's kind of like, you have the highest price that someone's willing to pay for to buy it and the lowest price somebody's willing to pay or to sell it at. And then they're going to meet somewhere in the middle if they are going to have some sort of a trade. And whatever the difference between those is kind of like what portion of the profits that they're sharing with one another. And I think that when you find yourself having a lot of wealth, that what you're called to do is to allow as much of that profit to be given to the others that you are trading with rather than trying to hoard all of that to yourself. especially because
Right.
you have the economies where, like, as someone gains more of a market share, they're able to push out other competitors, and they can upcharge people very aggressively and end up taking
Right.
more and more and more. I think that
Well,
that
look,
I think that's what's being. Yeah.
look at it. I think I think I see what you're saying there, and I think I'm seeing it slightly differently, and it's because of the fact that he is a rich young ruler. There's a real sense in which you get, or at least in my imagination, right? Like he's very used to going up to the hot new rabbi and saying, like, "Sir, what do I need to do to be saved?"
Mm.
And Rabbi so and so might say, donate a couple shekels to the synagogue down the road, right?
And then you're
Um,
saved.
yeah, like that
Tithe
kind
your
of thing.
10%. You're good.
Obviously I just made it up. It's not real. But but then there's the other thing that's interesting is that he says one thing you lack. And so it's like this idea that this guy who has everything, what he lacks, what does he lack? And what he actually lacks is the ability to give everything up, right?
Yep.
Like his lack is actually an abundance.
Yep.
And so there's the inversion or the paradox, right? Because we see abundance and we think of it as abundance. Jesus sees abundance and sees lack.
But Mo, I'm thinking that maybe upside where he gave us the answer to your question of what did he lack was faith, and it ties into what you're saying, the kind of extreme faith that Christ was calling him to. But what he lacked was faith, and that faith was to respond to Christ in the moment. It was, and then let me tie one more thing in there with what Afriel was talking about, and I would totally 100% agree, 99.9% of the time that you need to care for yourself first, to care for others. That like they tell you in the airplane, put on your mask before you put on the mask of the infant or the person you're caring for in an emergency or something like that. And yet there's the case where you can't say that the cross for Christ was to do nothing like that. There was a complete letting go. It was his act of faith, and it was an act of faith to allow himself to be crucified. Was that kind of ultimate extreme, and very similar to what he was calling the rich young ruler to. It seems to me.
Yeah.
So we come full circle, right? I mean, there is and this is where cults get scary, right? They make people give up and give up and give up to the point where they disregard their welfare.
Yes.
And yet there is a right or true application of the extreme.
Yeah.
I had to jump in because I've been thinking about a part of that story, which comes after when I think one of his disciples says, well, then it must be impossible for anybody to be saved. And he goes, with man, it's impossible, but with God, all things are possible. And it's like, that's a beautiful line that gets quoted all the time. But in this context, like, what the heck does that mean? Like in the context, in reference to that rich young man, that all things. So does that? It almost means it's like, okay, so is it possible that even though that guy wouldn't do that, that he might still be saved or whatever? Or does that mean that maybe it's possible for him in the future to actually make that sacrifice? It's like, what does that mean in reference to this man? That with God, all things are possible. It's almost like Jesus is hinting at something mysterious there,
Well, I think something that's important to ask in that context of that story too is, why is it that the rich young ruler is coming and asking this in the first place, right? He's keeping the laws. He's doing good by the people that are in his life. But the rich young ruler feels like he's not doing enough. Like there's something that's missing. And that's why he's coming and asking Jesus. He's saying, what is it? I can sense that there's something I'm missing. What is it that I'm missing? And I think that that's part of what Mark's getting at with him not having faith.
Well, I think the
don't know.
moral of the story is just don't ask.
Don't just keep
You
living
know?
your life. Don't ask
Yeah,
God. for
just
advice.
so-
don't ask.
You're not gonna like what he tells you.
Yeah.
Score! Don't ask. I like that. I'm at Panera, guys. I'm going to bow out and try to find a better connection. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye, Mark.
No, I think that because the impression that I get is that there's definitely like, and a lot of my thinking is influenced by like anybody, the experiences that I've had. And so one of the things that I've definitely kind of like put onto this framework is the idea of ELO ratings within games. And so it's like, okay, in order to get to the next spiritual level, you have to get over a certain ELO threshold of being a good guy. But you can go higher than that within this current life, right? And you're called to do that. You're called to continue up whatever that hierarchy, that chain looks like. And if you take it for granted that, oh, I'm already over the threshold, like that's the kind of stuff that'll get you in real trouble, because that is hiding your talents.
Yeah, you know, sometimes it's equally difficult to face a really experienced player as it is to face a novice. And the reason is because there are the novice is unpredictable, and the really experienced player is also unpredictable because you are not so experienced, so you don't know how to address all of that. Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing with that, as far as like ELO comparisons go, is that yes, a novice is a threat to like an intermediate level person, someone who has started to study the forms of the
I'm
art.
talking about the intermediate, yeah.
But the thing is that once you get to a certain level of expertise, it becomes completely irrelevant. At least that's been what I've seen, and that's been that's how the math plays out when you're talking about like ELO comparisons. Is that past a certain point, it's basically impossible for someone of a lower skill level to beat somebody at a higher skill level.
Yeah, I wonder if that's kind of what is rubbing me the wrong way. And because I'm noticing I really don't like the gaming metaphors in
I
regards
left
to
brained the shit out of it.
yeah in regards to the spiritual life, because the mathematics are not you know the whole point of faith, right, is to get beyond what the mathematics are telling us. And so there is a sense in which but then it's also like every good thing, every good gift comes down from the Father of lights, right? And so if you have something, if you have an ability, if you have a talent, if you are through life circumstances have been, you've leveled up spiritually, with an ELO, that is you have a number that kind of identifies your proximity to the ideal. But the problem with Christianity is that the ideal is eternal and perfect, but also is the synthesis of the finite and the infinite insofar as he is the God-man. And so you've got in Christianity a truly unreachable goal. And so for me, this is, this is Christian absurdity, but this is also just as simple as that story where Jesus, like that, your first interpretation that you said, which was like, Jesus gives him this impossible task. And I think that there is an element of truth to that. But it has to be that God both enjoys watching people try and he's okay with watching people fail in that task. And then it's also has to be the case that he's also quite okay with people not even knowing that game is being played. And so where I think that puts you in terms of an epistemological framework is it kind of necessitates that you be put in a state of anxiety or angst in regards to your own standing. It's like you have to join a chess tournament and you don't know your elo, and you don't know your opponent's elos, and you won't know until you've played a few games, kind of a thing.
Well, even if you do, sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Even if you do know your elo and your opponent's elos, the whole point of playing in a tournament is because there's like where you're at, and I do want to make one other point too about the nature of elo. It's not that like it's not this static scale where you know where the ceiling is. What it really is it's this framework of creating comparisons between players. And like with chess, we actually don't know if there is a skill cap. Like what does, if you were able to solve the game of chess, what elo does that end up being? Because we're creating bots that as we're playing them against each other, we're getting higher and higher. And like the highest rated players, I think, are in the order of like 2,700 to 3,000 elo. And the bots that we're creating are exceeding that, and the only way we're able to really measure where they're at is playing them relative to each other.
Right, but see the difference. See the difference here between the mathematics and the reality of the situation, which is, or at least for the reality of Christianity, which is to say that we absolutely know the cap for the elo. We know what the perfect life looks like. It looks like being born in a manger and dying on a cross.
Right, but
right?
what can you? The thing is that I don't know. Oh man, there's so many things bouncing around in my head right now. We don't know where that is. We know what it is, but we don't know where it is relative to.
What do you mean?
So you can describe that as the perfect life, but
I was about to tell you it's in Jerusalem.
Well,
it's in Israel. That's where. You know.
Well, I mean, where relative to other good lives, right? Like the lives of the saints. Like if you were to try and rank order them, which I don't think that that's even necessarily a helpful or useful exercise, but just as like a thought experiment. If you were to,
I'm critiquing. I think I'm critiquing something far more fundamental.
Yeah.
Which is that there's no such thing
of
a good life, right? Like there. I don't think that it's I think you've got your life, and there might be varying reasons to call it good or bad, or but like
that is heresy. That's heresy to say in our modern world. You might get banned from YouTube from saying that. You know?
No, there's other things that we could get banned from YouTube for. I don't think that's one of them.
Yeah, don't tempt me, Mark.
Claiming there's no such thing as a good life. All those health influencers are gonna like try to get you shadow banned.
Well, that's what's so weird, right? Is like the good life for Christianity is a life of suffering. Mm-hmm. It is a life of humility. That is to say, it's a life of it's a life of humiliation. It might be perceived and experienced as pointless up until the very end. It's not up to you, right?
Sometimes it's pretty good though.
Can you not admit that you could feasibly be put in a situation of meaningless suffering until you died? And so in terms of this is why I disagree with a lot of even the like meaning crisis solutions, which is like there if you want to gain your life, you must lose it. If you want to lose your life, you do all you can to gain it. Like it's fundamentally radically, you take the leap of faith and you trust a good God who's paid for your sins, right? So like, that doesn't mean we have to stop thinking and talking about things, but
you know what?
like
I definitely
in terms of strategy, it's not very helpful.
I have thought about that. Like, okay, would I be, if I just had nothing but suffering for the rest of my life, would I be able to like keep faith? You know, I hope so. It really it depends on how bad the suffering is. I think that I probably have a breaking point, but the fact is like, okay, so if you're going to lose your life, or if you want to save your life, then you must lose it, right? Mm-hmm. So, we think about that as like, well, eternal life after I die. But in reality, like most of us, once we lose our life and just accept that suffering of Christ, our life gets great.
Well, but
in
not
a lot
just
of ways.
I want to hear Ron first because you were trying to say something.
Oh, sorry about that.
Well,
no, you're good.
You guys are doing your thing in a good way. Because if you suffer, all right, this is where, because this will come back kind of like to the woo and or entities. When you suffer with Christ, he's like, I will never leave or forsake you. It's not to say you're going to feel great during it, but you might feel comforted.
Mhm.
There's a high probability that the greater the suffering, the greater the comfort. And that wasn't so much that's just my way of saying that, yeah, okay, everything you're saying I agree with, but you're not alone.
Yep. All of the solutions to the anxieties produced by reality are found in faith, hope, and love.
Yeah.
But the problem is we don't want to do that. We don't want to trust that Jesus will be in our sufferings.
Right.
We want to figure it out.
Right.
And we want to have had figured it out so that we can tell others and get the juice and the glory. You know, I'm speaking of myself now. You know, like I want to figure it all out so that I can tell people, and they'll listen to me and think I'm cool and smart.
You'd overtake Andrew Huberman.
Yep. Look out, Huberman. McMo's on your tail.
Look like you're thinking about something. Ups. Let's.
No, I generally speaking, I agree with everything said here, especially with McMo's points. The only thing I can add is that, yeah, we need to, in a way, lose ourselves in order to find ourselves, but that position doesn't need to go to the extreme. That is the worst option, which is suicide. That's never the answer,
Oh,
right? Yeah. So that's what Camus got correct. Like that's the most serious question. Like, and that is why it's considered a sin, right? Yeah.
Well, and here too is a paradox, because obviously Christ did not commit suicide, but he says, "No one takes my life from me; I lay it down."
Yep.
And so this is once again a place where the truth of Christianity is so near to that which is insane or evil. But also notice how the person who's committing suicide, they're actually not dying to themselves. What they're trying to do is kill the world, and they're not powerful enough to kill the world, and so they'll kill the next best thing, which is their experience of the world, or so they think. And so, yes, of course, suicide is horrible and sad, and we'll probably get tagged with some warning about it. But it's also very reasonable, right? And this is why Camus and Sartre and all the existentialists latched onto it, is because it makes so much sense, unless you have faith. And if you have faith, it's the thing that makes the least sense.
so it sends to the world the sense of the materialist. If I can,
I think just makes sense, full stop. Because I don't think
or even pagans. Because if you're a slave, you know, it's almost better to die, be a slave.
I don't think that's correct, though.
I want to distinguish between when I'm saying making sense, I am in some sense speaking about the ways in which things make sense in the world. But I am also wanting to point to the fact that so often Christianity is, in these later days, it's proliferated as something that will, quote unquote, make your life make sense. And I just don't think that was ever it wasn't the main goal. It may be a happy second order effect, but the goal in some sense is obviously far beyond us, as it should be, and it may be infinitely far before us, so that there is an infinity or an eternal experience of running towards it or something. But yeah, like I often find in conversations like this that like it can be very difficult, because what we're really looking for, like conversationally, is some sort of like quilting point where we can kind of tie everything together and say, now it all makes sense. But I think that the Christian life is actually not about making sense. I think it's actually about it's the tension between being and becoming that you were talking about earlier, Ron. The already not yet. That being perfect and being perfected, which is what Christ says of Christ. But then there's also we who are, dying and resurrecting every day in myriad ways. So it's and there's comfort and encouragement to be found 100%. But the comfort and encouragement, I think, it has to be gift. If you try to win for yourself comfort and encouragement, you'll lose it. It has to come from outside. And so what that does, I think, is it puts us in a state of patient expectation, right? And and so that would be maybe a good jumping off point for somebody else. But yeah, Neil's here. Hey, Neil.
Do you mind if I throw? Neil, say hi first. I want to throw 2 points in.
Hey, everybody. No, I'd like to square. You go first, Afrael, but I'd like to square Mark S. and McMo because I love what both of you are saying.
So the first thought I had was towards the end of the Inheritance series, Aragon and those books, the big bad evil guy at the very end, they confront and are fighting against him, and his last act is to cast the spell Weiss Nina, which translates to be not. And what it does, or what that spell does, is it doesn't just kill him, it rips him apart and basically utilizes all of himself as a nuclear explosion. And that's kind of what comes to mind anytime that I think about suicide now, is like that's what you're actually trying to do. You're trying to not just kill yourself, you're trying to rip yourself apart and destroy the world as a consequence of it. And the other thing was, I didn't mention it before, but with McMo, you're talking about like when you try to take the world, you lose it. That's the evil win condition in this life, from what I can tell, which is that in the same, like I was talking about with good, you're trying to give 50 plus 1. Evil, you're trying to take 9 for every 1 that you have to give. And I think that's a understanding that I want to try and convey. I don't know if it's correct. I don't know if it's true, but from what I've seen, especially in my time in the army, that resonates very, very strongly. That's what service to self means, is that I'm trying to take from others or get others to give to me, such that I get 9 for every 1 that I'm forced out of obligation to give to others.
So basically, you're saying insurance companies are evil.
Yes. I mean, they don't have to be. That's the frustrating thing. Like, there is actually a case to be made for them to exist in the world and for them to be a good way of distributing risk across a population. But the way that they function right now, where they're trying to take everyone's money as much as possible and never ever give any of it out, yeah, that's not good.
I watched It's a Wonderful Life for the first time ever yesterday. Have y'all seen that? Yeah. I found myself at various times in that movie, like, both perplexed why it's my first time ever seeing that movie. But also there were a number of synchronicities or God winks, whatever you want to call them, as I was watching that movie. And there were, man, I can't even square that movie with the stuff that you're talking about right now, but I think it's both right. So McMo, the protagonist of that movie, the angel, I'm going to spoilers, but it came out in 48, but the spoilers are that the angel shows this guy who thinks his life has been, of course, Matt
He doesn't want to listen to it.
He doesn't want shows what if this guy never existed, like what the life would be.
Yep.
and I want to go meta absurdity on McMo, and I want to say, yes, the ultimate absurdity is that we can never know what purpose we're truly serving in the totality of things. We can never know the final telos because the story isn't written until it all plays out, really. And stories have a way of changing the past of the story as it moves forward into the future, which is even more remarkable. But also, I want to completely agree with Mark S. because as I see life is a series of repeating games. We wouldn't be drawn to things like video games or stories if we weren't having things revealed to us through those. You could call them copies or shadows or examples or archetypes of the pattern of, well, I guess the pattern of life is the archetype. And then we experience these things as we're being taught in childhood and into adulthood of, okay, this is how life is, or this is how life should be, or this is, and so my experience has been similar to Mark S's in that when I give up what I want completely, then something miraculous and amazing fills the void. Now, that's not saying it's always going to happen that way, and that's not saying that we can ever expect it to happen that way. That's still the ultimate absurdity. But the Christian move, I think, is not my will, but yours. And in that move, I've gone down the experiment that Mark S. mentioned earlier about, how long could I deal with the suffering? But the problem with answering that question is that you're not the same person you were a year ago, 5 years ago. So you're judging your capacity to deal with suffering in a frame that's not static, in a frame that's changing across time. So you're always faced with the absurd position of trusting in something that you cannot see, that you do not know, that you can't have total, that you can't have really any control over. But like that is what that's the adventure. I mean, the adventure is that trust in the totality, in the thing that's beyond you. Yeah, that's what I got.
Well, and it makes me want to put one more point. Oh. Ron, you're giving us an echo. Nope. Okay, we're good. Because one of the things that McMo mentioned about like going to a chess tournament and like you're fighting people with different elos, the whole point of engaging in that is that everybody who's going to that tournament has presumably been trying to get better over time, that they've been trying to improve their skills. And then what you're doing when you're like, there's an elo update that happens after a given tournament. It's not this static number. You don't come into the world at a certain level and then you're just stuck there. You have, like, the whole point is to try and strive to deepen your understanding, deepen your love for the thing that you're engaging with. And as a consequence of that, be able to bring out more beauty into or onto whatever the canvases that you're painting with, even if that canvas is a chessboard.
Yeah, I have a question to ask you guys. How is it possible that I feel so strongly that this specific conversation we're having, it's beyond the usual thinking talking? So
Probably just because Neil's here, Once he joined, it was
everything changed, huh?
I mean,
that probably shot us up into the stratosphere.
You want there's a scene in The Devil's Advocate where what's his face? Who plays the devil? Al Pacino. He's like vanity, definitely my favorite sin. So I get out of church today, and what Alfredo was talking about earlier of like the constant temptation or whatever. Like I get out of church, take my phone out of airplane mode, put on YouTube, and the first suggested video is a 3-minute video on C.S. Lewis wisdom. So temptation right there, and it's 3 minutes. That's really tempting, and it's why God may give you the gift of looking younger than you actually are. I was like, what the- Talk about demons and principalities, man. And I clicked on the video.
Just scratch
Well-
it away.
Well, why did God make you look so damn young, Neil?
Because I'm going to get humbled at some point. Harder than I can tolerate.
Turn 45
Well, if
and all
you're-
your hair just spontaneously turns gray.
If you're humbled, then you don't have to be humiliated. And in fact, if you are humble, you can't really be humiliated. So, humble is always better than humiliation. So, fear not,
Thank you, brother.
Neil Young.
I want to hear more, Mark S. What I feel like you and McMo had a good tension going, that you were kind of tugging at it. Yeah.
Well, honestly, I appreciate it, man, but I feel like if I try to talk about religious things for more than 3 minutes, I'm just full of shit. So I feel like I said my piece. And
It never stopped me, Mark.
well, honestly, I mean, I feel like we were at this, you were saying like, oh, we want to wrap this up in a nice bow tie. I feel like it was like, basically like, I'll probably misquote you, but it's saying that we want to make these things better, but all we can do is like pray and wait for. Or you said it's a gift. It's nothing we can do. It's a gift, right? And so it's like that, and that's I think that's maybe the biggest problem of life is like the best thing will come from God, and all I got to do is just like clean my room. Well, I shouldn't use that, but do what I got to do and pray and wait for that gift. And it sounds so easy, but it's the hardest. It's like the problem of sin that I don't want to do that. And
Can I run a crazy idea by you guys? I gotta test out this idea. All right. So a tree is that which connects heaven and earth, right? So we acknowledge that the cross is a tree. In the Garden of Eden, you have two trees. You have the tree of life, and you have the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Okay, Christ returns back to garden, and here's what I'm thinking, and this is my crazy idea, that the tree of life is somehow emblematic of our vulnerability, you could say. I always go back to vulnerability, but to be alive is to be vulnerable, and then. But I don't feel quite right about that. And then the tree of knowledge of good and evil is something like discernment, like the ability to discern, right from wrong, good from bad, quality, discernment of those things. And so Jesus in Gethsemane says something radical, which it kind of lends credence to the non-Trinitarian argument. This is where I need theological backup, McMosif. But Jesus says, I'm going to read it. It's Matthew 26:39. He says, going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." So that implies that Jesus has a will independent of God the Father. Yet not as I will, but. Now, I think the Trinitarian response would be, okay, that's his human will. That's his human side. And so the tree of discernment, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, is, let's say, the capacity for each of us individually to see and seek out an ideal or discern good from bad, right from wrong. So we're climbing the ladder to heaven on these two trees. We're living we're living and we're discerning and we're climbing the ladder. And yet with Jesus, I see the reversal of that, where he basically he just said gives up his human will completely, and he says, "Not as I will, but as you will." So basically, he's and also he gives up his life, right? That's the tree of life. So he basically the alternative path. So you could have the traditional path is like to reach God is like you grow in wisdom, you grow slowly, you discern, you know, like walk with, you know, walk. And Jesus flips that on its head by saying, yeah, that's all well and good, but at the end of the day, you basically have to give all of that up and say, let your will be done. Because it's not like Jesus can't discern the ideal for, you know, even in his human will. Like clearly he can envision like a good life with his friends, like doing God's will on earth. And he knows, he believes that life is a good thing. I can't believe that Jesus actually wanted to die. Like he wants to live. You know what I mean? And that's how I see that line. And but at the end of the day, it's the Christian move is like all of the wisdom, all of the left brain, pragmatic practicality. So this is where I'm ultimately absurdist. I'm with McMo in that ultimate absurdist move. But it's like
that makes two of us.
Basically, we do the best we can. What I'm saying is like we do the best we can, but then when the time comes for us to give up our conception of what we want, what we think, when we're presented that choice, it's no choice at all. It's like we got to give it up, whatever it is. And so what do you think of that?
So,
it's a lot.
So just on the first Trinitarian point, the division of the wills is not necessarily. You don't have to play the card of that was just like his human side or whatever. You could actually argue that there needs to be a distinction of wills within the Trinity for the love between the three persons to be true love, right? Like if the Father can't decide whether or not to love the Son, and the Son can't decide whether or not to love the Father, then they might as well just have the same will, So yeah, but also once you get into the Trinitarian talk, contradictions abound, absurdities abound. It also is making me think, I want to hear what Ups had to say, but just briefly, I've heard lots of interesting theories on the tree of good and bad versus the tree of life, and whether the cross was the tree of life or the flaming sword, or that when in the moment that if the moment that Adam and Eve ate the apple, when their eyes were open, what they first saw was Christ on the cross. So there's, and they would have recognized him because they walked with him in the garden, kind of a thing, right? So yeah, there's lots of fun theories and stuff like that I'm not as familiar as I should be, but I want to hear what Ups has to say.
Yeah, basically I'm gonna hop off because I'm gonna be streaming a very specific episode on the blog. The Broken Clock Tower in a while. I promise to enjoy. So the only thing I can add, and this is my personal belief, I really believe that the tree of life is the Lord Jesus Christ, and he was already there, like in paradise from the very beginning. And the tree of good and evil, it belongs to our Jewish friends, and the Gentiles have the other tree. So that's what I believe. I know it's not a very good popular belief, but that's my.
So when Adam and Eve ate, they broke kosher.
Yeah.
No, they learned kosher. They began. That's how you learn the law, right?
Okay, guys. Love you, man. Love you.
Love you, Ups.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
I'm probably going to go join Ups and Joy to watch the that thing on the Broken Clock Tower Discord, but we'll see.
I might join them too. I think it's probably about time to land the plane. It's been about 2.5 hours we've been going anyway.
Hey, can you post that so I can? It's going to be on the Broken Clock Tower.
Yes.
Yeah, Grim Grizz's.
Okay, cool.
Actually, are you on there already, Ron?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we'll just message you.
All right, fellas, this is fun.
Yeah. Thank you for having us, Ron. I appreciate you.
Yeah, good to
welcoming us
see
into
you
your
all.
house. Yeah.
The hostess with the mostest.
Good to see you guys.
Boop.
Hey, so
Thanks, Neil.
on that broken clock tower, if I have the Discord already, I could see that, or
I think so.
Yeah, yeah. If
I'm
you're a
new to
part
that.
of Grim Grizz's Discord, we can message you. But it'll probably be you'll be able to see it. It'll be in the telepresencing room, most certainly. And but yeah, if you can't find it, just message one of us on Discord, and we'll direct you your ways. We'll make your path
Thank you.
straight, Mark S.
All along the clock
Thank you.
tower.
Oh yeah.
Appreciate it.
Also, Ron, thanks for holding down the fort. I wasn't able to do my normal Sunday chill stream, so thanks for
I was
letting me get
wondering.
on and yammer about Kierkegaard. You know, I was
Yeah,
starting to get
dude.
the itch.
Yeah, no, I like that quite a bit. This was my first time ever being able to host. It was fun. I liked it. And I would like to hear more, McMo and Neil, your thoughts, and Marcus, on how to integrate the woo in a good way. Oh, wait a
Not
second.
you, Afriel. Not you.
Yeah, yeah. Not
Heard
you.
enough from me. I've been yapping this all 2.5 hours. We're done. You're cut off.
You failed. You did not successfully convince Ron that you had the best way to intermingle the woo.
I was just in there for pity anyway.
Is everything okay, by the way, Mark? It sounds like you got a fire alarm going.
Yeah, I'm just burning some stuff. I'm good.
Okay.
Oh, I thought
Burning
Mark-
down the house.
I thought Mark was backing up.
This was fun. That's all there was to it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So
I had a nice I had a nice little bit of woo in mass today, because normally I'm attending mass and I'm participating in the music, and so I don't actually get to like fully focus on the mass. But occasionally I get, I'll call it a woo. I don't know what to call it. Like
mhm.
sometimes it's a combination of thoughts that occur to me. Sometimes, hold on.
Right at that moment when Neil was about to reveal the secret of life.
No, you get an epiphany sometimes in the middle of the service, or I get the feeling like it's like goosebumps, or it's like but it's not. It's at least for me, that's the closest normal physical approximation that I can.
Gotcha.
So I feel something kind of welling up within me that's outside of my conscious control. That's
Mhm.
not something that I intended to, and it also tends to happen at unexpected moments. But when that happens, I don't know. I can either be constant doubting Thomas, or I can just accept it as a gift. And yeah.
Woo as internal surprise goosebumps.
Yeah, I think one of the things about woo is it has to be out of your even intent, not only in conscious control, but also intent. Yeah.
Maybe there's if you're trying to force the woo, then that's like too close to sorcery or something.
Well,
I think that's right. I think that's correct.
That's my trip on tripping, because it's transactional. I'm going to pay you for this experience, and every time I pay you, I will have it. But if you don't, if you don't do the whatever, you don't get the experience. That to me is.
If you just learn to love the drug dealer, he'll give it to you for free.
Listen, I gotta go. I gotta make a call. It was gonna be romantic, but
McMosive Bigelow, male gigolo.
Anyhow, I was just ranting. No, but but here's the thing on the woo. I'll give you one thing, because no one's gonna see this, and it doesn't matter. And you know what I mean? Like, it just.
Amen.
That's when you know you're going to hear something good.
Yeah. I am forgiving the priests from, dare I say the name, that place I shall not name, just to protect them. But dude, I got my ass handed to me for this past week because I was pissed at the priests and the guy who came at me, and I was going to have what for, and I was going to go to the church, and if they were going to do something, I was like, let's go. And I felt a demon start tap dancing on my heart. And I'm like, dude, I'm an ass. And it was pride. It was, I wanted vengeance. I wanted my righteousness to be like, I'm back. And I'm realizing, dude, I'm in trouble. Like I am in a dangerous place. But actually confessing it to you, like, I realize there are a lot of Catholics I genuinely like not just like, but like, dude, we're cool. And a lot of the theology. Oh, by the way, you know that girl that I had the dream about? I asked God, I'm like, who is she? He said, you already know her name. I'm like, I didn't want to hear that. I don't want to have to deal with this collateral damage. But I heard what I heard. And I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing, and I'm willing to forgive and really just walk away, not in a huff, but it goes back to the original statement I felt in my heart. Leave, nothing but a thank you. Because if I don't, it's like, I hate you. Here's some poison. And that's what's been going on. And I've just been processing it just last night. And so when you guys were talking to me about, well, let's talk about entities. I'm like, all right, I'll talk to you about some. What do you want to know?
Well, I don't know who the lady in your dream was, but my best guess is that Mother Mary is probably Catholic.
I don't. How about Orthodox for 200?
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Well, and
What if she's like a Protestant? What if she's just like a low church evangelical Protestant?
I'm about to
Hilarious.
dox myself.
Okay,
My
so-
church is named Mary Help of Christians. Well, that's its new name since we merged with another church.
Okay, so and
I'm against praying to Mary, but Neil, you can pray for me to Mary if you want.
Thanks, Mark. I'll do that. Oh,
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you for showing that, Mark. That 1 second.
yeah, that was
Yo,
it.
I talked to
problem.
Mary, and she had I talked to Mary, and she had never heard of Mark S.
Wow, that's Mark.
Thank
There's
God.
a few ladies that say that.
That's a retroactive excommunication that McMo talked to Mary. Yeah.
And she answered. Wow.
Oh, so that's it. Well, what we got? OG Mike in the house. Hi, Mike. Oh,
Yeah,
but anyhow, I just want to share that with you because I was having a real bad week, and I realized, and the reason I'm doing this now is confession. I don't have a priest, and that's okay. And a lot of people around here, they're not going to understand. But I know you're Catholic and we have relationship. And I'm like, it feels good admitting it. Like, dude, I was wrong. I had a bad attitude. It was spiritual. And I'm letting go. And it's about the perfection we've talked about. Like, I am a saint. I had a moment of not saintliness, probably a good chunk of it. And I'm really realizing who I am in my heart. I'm like, God, man, I suck at times. And God is letting me know. But I want not to be in pain. And I realize I need to really to say, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do, and see them as he sees them and really love them. And then I'm okay.
I was listening to the part of the stream where Afrael was talking about his deconstruction post college, and I was like, man, he's more Christian now than he's ever been.
What's that line from Lewis? A man who feeds on Christianity as myth may be saved more than one who merely believes it is fact without thinking much of it. Something like that.
Oh, I like that.
Thank you, McMo, for that one, by the way.
No,
You're
but
welcome.
thanks, Ron, for sharing that. And yeah, no, that temptation toward righteous justice.
Oh,
Yeah, especially when it's like, oh, it's not vengeance, it's righteous.
it's not.
righteous
It's not.
justice. That, you know, oh, the pride just slips in. It's like, yeah, I know righteousness. I'm gonna, yeah.
It's definitely not vengeance. Who, me? Vengeance?
Vengeance is the Lord's, so I'm going to leave that to him. I'm just going to do my own little righteous justice enactment here.
I will say
I'm
that
glad you shared that, though, Ron. That was, appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think it's very cool too, because it's not just like it's not that, because I have bitterness towards the Catholics, but I've never really been personally hurt by one, you know. So you're also dealing with the forgiveness of stuff, you know, not just like disagreeing with theological beliefs or something like that. So that's even more difficult in some ways to forgive the personal stuff than it is for some people to forgive the heresies, right?
I think the personal stuff is way harder than any heresy. Heresy, it's nothing personal. Personal stuff, face to face and heart to heart. And that's where, and I think maybe I understand now maybe a little bit more when Jesus said, Judas, you betray me with a kiss. I'm like, because even the Psalms, Jesus goes, my beloved friend who raised his heel up against me, and I prayed and fasted for him, wept tears. I'm like, Jesus did, Judas wasn't just some schmo. Judas was a bud.
Mm-hmm.
And then to get shanked by one of your own, that's just the betrayal. And for me, that's
Why do I feel like you're talking about me, Ron?
Well, I hacked your library for just airing out. No, altruistic.
Sunlight's the best disinfectant for dirty laundry. Is that the?
That's it. And here are my drawers. So, but it's actually like, here's the thing. I was during this past 2 days, it was difficult for me to breathe because there were times when I would feel it hit me as I was breathing. And when I was talking to Neil, as I was talking to you, I felt the love of God come in because I was confessing. And it seems like it's a wash, rinse, repeat thing. And I'm cool with it. I'm like, okay, if that's the process that I purport, I'm telling everyone, oh, go ahead and forgive and blah, 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 and confess. And like, here it is. And I wish it was easy. I wish that there was an exact science to it, but all I know is as best I can in the moment, find the moment and seize it. It's usually not going to be religious, but it'll just be right. And then let it rip. Just have at it. And that's where the miracles happen, I think. It's that's where it happens. So I've talked enough. I don't like seeing everybody looking at me.
Well, that's probably a good place to land the plane too, because it looks like Ups is getting going in the clock
Yeah.
tower. So
Oh, dude.
perfect timing.
All right.
it's been a pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Bye bye.
Hang loose.
Yeah, peace out.
Guys,
Thanks,
Angel
Ron.
Dergo Hollow.
good time.
Thanks, everyone.
The armor of God on my.
Awesome.
Love you, Ron.
Bye.
Thanks again.
Guys,
Bye.
this is fun.
Love you, Ron.
I love it. All right.
Love you,
Guys.
Ryan. Bye bye.
Bye. Goodbye.